this video, we're going to take you along with us to Victoria, Canada. We're on the Serenade of the Seas, and we're doing a Pacific coastal cruise. So come along. So here we are. We see a sign that says, "Welcome to Canada." Can you see? Okay, so we're going on our tour, and we're gonna get on the hop on, hop off. So, but I just wanted you to see the Welcome to Canada sign. And there's our hop on, hop off up there, over there. There we go.
Line one.
So we're gonna go through this. I don't know what this is, but this is the way they have us going. It was freezing. There we go. Let's see what's gonna happen. Let's see if they let me film. Let's see. Where's my group? Okay.
The red box.
We're going. So Honey wants to go up. Honey wants to go up. He's feeling adventurous today, and I'm gonna go with him. You know, I always follow him, no matter where he goes. We're starting our tour at Oak Bay, number 12 on the hop on, hop off map.
We'll be back with a waterfront and a few moments more will stop at the Bay Marina. Seafarers of all time, from weekend sailors to professional fishermen, keep this place hopping. The full-service marina is also hooked to sailing schools, a rescue station, and a tackle shop with a wide variety of fishing gear. Now, step to the other side of these buildings and you'll see a whole other World War pleasure boat, Amandal, while locals relax, take leisurely strolls on the docks, and pull back with a coffee or a sustainable local seafood lunch. If you check it out for yourself, you might also see harbor seals. It's no coincidence that they hang out at the dock right where the fishers come in to clean their catch. Feeling like you want to get out on the water? The marina offers kayak rentals and fishing charters if you'd like to catch your own fresh salmon, halibut, or bottom fish like flounder. Check in at the gift shop for more information. You can also ask about bicycle rentals, a great way to explore deeper into Oak Bay's local life and points of interest. As we make our way into the Oak Bay Marina parking lot, you can see the marina site is located both on Mary Todd Island offshore and onshore at Turkey Head Point. Oak Bay's coastline offers some stunning view. On a clear day, a view of the dormant volcano Mount Baker stuns onlookers with its majestic beauty. Did you know Oak Bay's first official tourist attraction was the view of Mount Baker? You may see it here today along with the Songhis Island. Mount Baker is the largest stratovolcano on the west coast and is still firmly active. Don't worry, it hasn't erupted in over 6,000 years. The Songhis Islands are known as Chatham and Discovery. These small islands were inhabited by Lekwungen families for many centuries until the well ran dry in 1957. They are still owned and protected of the Songhis First Nation. They keep a very special watch over one resident, the lone coastal wolf, Takaya, who arrived in 2012 and used to live on the islands. Experts were surprised by his ability to survive all alone on such a small group of islands. He spent 7 years here before tragically dying in 2020. How he came to be on the islands is still a mystery, since the closest wolf pack lived 45 kilometers away. His arrival holds spiritual meaning for the Songhis people who connected Takaya with their much-loved chief, Robert Sam, who passed away the same year Takaya arrived. South of the Oak Bay Marina used to be Sealand of the Pacific, an attraction like Sea World that housed many orcas while it remained open. One of these orcas was Tilikum, the same whale featured in the documentary Blackfish, and known for the incident in 1991 that closed Sealand. All whales were sold and shipped to SeaWorld, where Tilikum would have 2 other incidents before his death. Now, as we came into the marina parking lot, you saw that concrete statue of that orca, the killer whale. That is a pinnacle that actually used to be outside of the sea land of the Pacific. Now, if you've ever been to a Shabu show from about 1998 through till about 2005, yeah, I'm just going to stop here right away. You would have seen, okay, this stop is the Oak Bay Marina. Or seen Tilikum Almungon. Now, a lot of good has come from Tilikum's tragic life. It's that of the story when he was captured off the coast of Norway in the North Sea and brought here. He was put into a tank with 2 pregnant females. And the one thing we learned from that was that they don't speak the same language. That was very distressing for Tilikum, and that led to a rapid decline in his mental health. So since then, thankfully we've learned some lessons about the moratorium on the incaptive programs of the killer whale, as well as a moratorium on using orcas and the higher species of mammals for entertainment purposes in places like Sealand or SeaWorld. So thankfully, we did learn some lessons. In just a few moments, we'll stop at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel. The building you see today is the 3rd one built on the site. The original was constructed in 1927, but soon succumbed to fire. The second building was built soon after, and stood here until 2006 when it was demolished to make way for the larger, more accommodating property you see here. Today's Coronation was designed to reuse many parts of the original and to blend into the grand architecture of the neighborhood. Besides world-class accommodation, the hotel features a restaurant, pub, and cafe. There's even a theater here named for David Foster, a famous music producer born in Victoria who returns frequently to raise funds for his foundation, dedicated to transplant research. This stop, Oak Bay Beach Hotel. Hop off here to experience their historic pub or grab gourmet treats at the cafe, which features the original hotel entrance, hand-hewn beams and fireplace. Walk up to the Victoria Golf Club, which has been here for over 125 years. As we make our way back to the waterfront, we'll pass through some residential areas. Oak Bay homes have some of the city's most beautiful residential architecture. The building styles reflect Oak Bay's European heritage. Near the water, for instance, look for touches that remind you of traditional British cottages, like rounded doorways or neatly carved Georgian columns and diamond-shaped leaded glass windows. Some of these details date back to the late 19th century, when it was fashionable to build cottages by the sea. You may notice some of the cottages still standing up today among the many mansions in this area. The mansions along Beach Drive have their own history. Many of them were home to some of Victoria's most prominent figures, including the Butchart family, still known today for their famous garden attraction. Golf was of course also popular, and just ahead, we will draw through the middle of Canada's oldest golf course. Since 1893, the Victoria Golf Course has been the pride of Oak Bay. The course was designed around the nature that surrounds it and boasts 4 holes right along the fee side. At one time, kiosks were aimed from one side of Beach Drive to the other, but all that changed in the 1920s when auto traffic led to increasing danger. The first motor vehicle registered in Victoria was in 1902. Keeping with Victoria's spooky past, there is a ghost that haunts the golf course. Doris Bravlin was murdered in 1936 and is often seen throughout the golf course and beach as a figure in all white, gliding through the grass and over the road, giving motorists quite the fright. We're now approaching a view of one of this area's coastal icons. To your left, you will see the Trial Islands Lighthouse. The Enterprise Channel separates us from the islands. There were several deadly shipwrecks here before this lighthouse was constructed in 1906, and many lives were lost, and crews were taken by surprise by the channel's treacherous currents and unpredictable westerly winds. In the earliest days, lighthouse keepers were stationed on Trial Island to manually light and extinguish the beacons, operate the foghorns, and watch for the safety of all ships passing through. They lived an isolated life, but the value of their work has been proven many times since. Over the years, lighthouse operations became more and more automated across Canada until it was decided they would all be automated. But when Trial Island was up for full automation, the argument was made that the keen eye of the keeper was still needed with treacherous conditions in nearby waters. And today, Trial Island has one of few staffed lighthouses in operations. Another historical lighthouse sits not far to the west. The Fisgard Lighthouse began operations in 1860, making it the oldest operating lighthouse on the west coast today. The shelter of nutrient-filled waters around Vancouver Island support a rich array of marine life, from plankton to sea stars, crabs, octopus, and a vast assortment of saltwater fish. Those fish support marine mammals like river otters, seals, and sea lions. Seabirds get in on the action too. Watch for osprey and cormorants diving for fish. Victoria is also a premier spot for whale watching. In the spring, thousands of Pacific gray whales pass the west coast of Vancouver Island as they migrate north. You can also spot humpback and minke whales. 3 pods of black and white orcas or killer whales spend a good part of the year just south of the island in the Salish Sea, socializing, and feeding on fish and smaller sea mammals. Victoria has plenty of whale-watching opportunities, from small open-air boats to big, comfortable, covered vessels that serve tea and drinks. Check with one of our agents for more information. Let's take a trip back in time to when Vancouver Island was a pristine wilderness. The original human inhabitants were people of the First Nations, who included the ancestors of the Songhees Nation and the Esquimalt Nation. As we've mentioned, they lived in a land of plenty, with a temperate climate, calm waters, bountiful fish, good hunting, and abundant edible plants. The island cedar trees provided raw materials for shelter and even clothing. With all these resources, British Columbia's coastal region was one of the most densely populated areas in North America. BC is considered a global language diversity hotspot, with 34 First Nation languages and over 90 dialects spoken across 204 First Nations. This makes up over half of all the Indigenous languages in Canada. But language provides the key to understanding the true diversity of First Nations history, culture, and values. Gary? Yeah. Well, look up the hill directly ahead. You will see a white domed building. This is the Gonzales Observatory. Built in 1914, it housed a 12.7-centimeter telescope and unparalleled views of Victoria. It was built by Francis Denison, who lived in it for many years. He collected weather data, star sightings, and seismic readings. It was considered the best weather station in the West for 4 years before it was overshadowed by a larger observatory built in Saanich with a larger telescope. That didn't stop Denison. He collected weather reports for 75 years before he passed. And it's now a heritage building. It's something he's gracing during that realize. Now, even a lot of folks here in Victoria don't truly understand why the Gonzales was originally built. Prior to the advent of radio being used to navigate ships at sea, they used, of course, stars to navigate, and with that, you had to have a very accurate timepiece on board your ship. The Gonzales Observatory would use star fixing to calculate accurate local time. Ships come into the outer or inner harbor, contact the Gonzales, get updated accurate local time, reset the onboard clocks, and that way could then navigate accurately by the stars. And that was the original purpose of the Gonzales. Vancouver Island was named after Naval Officer George Vancouver, who arrived on the island with James Cook. They happened to cross the island while searching for the Northwest Passage that connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. During a full-year survey of America's northwest coast, he finally realized that this was an island when he sailed all the way around it. He surveyed Vancouver Island's inlets and channels, doing such a good job that many of his measurements have stood the test of time and are still used today. Both James Cook and George Vancouver revolutionized Western perceptions of world geography. Now, George Vancouver was a very interesting character indeed. When he was only 13 years of age, he joined the Royal Navy. When he was only 15 years of age, he joined Captain James Cook as an able-bodied seaman on his second Pacific voyage. And on that voyage, they were tasked with getting to Tahiti in time to observe the transit of Venus across the sun. With that measurement taken at several places around the world, astronomers were then able to calculate the distance between the Earth and the Sun. On that voyage, they also discovered New Zealand and Eastern Australia. Then in 1776, there's a date for you folks. He joined Captain Cook on his third Pacific voyage as an 18-year-old junior navigator. And on that voyage, they were tasked with trying to find the Northwest Passage. They did come close. They came as close as 40 miles to the western entrance to the Northwest Passage. However, they had to turn back as they were quite nervous that their ships would be locked in the winter ice, which would be certain death. Heading south is when they first bumped into Vancouver Island at Nootka Sound. Now, of course, they didn't know it was an island at that time. That would come later. Continuing south, they were the first Europeans to lay their eyes on the islands of Hawaii. landing on the little island of Kauai. And when they landed, the fertility ceremony was taking place, and the Hawaiians actually mistook the two ships of Europeans to be gods. They'd never seen anything like that before. And the deception held until such time as one of their crewmates got sick and died. And then the deception was uncovered, and the Hawaiians were not very pleased about it, so they got the heck out of there. Unfortunately, the Davos immediately turned back, as they had some problems with one of their ships, this time landing on the big island of Hawaii, just south of the modern city of Kailua Kona. Now, if you've ever been there, there's actually a little town called Captain Cook. And on that day, I apologize to any Hawaiian friends on board. I'll try not to butcher the name too badly. That bay is Kealakekua Bay. And in that day, you'll find a monument put there by the British government. Now, in memory of the life of Captain Cook, and that is where he met his grisly end at the hands of the Hawaiians. Gentleman who then took over that command to get it back to England, none other than William Bligh. Now, of course, William Bligh went on to most infamously captain the HMS Bounty. About 12 years later, now Captain George Vancouver was given his own command and tasked with mapping and charting the entirety of the Pacific Northwest, all the way from California to Alaska. So everything that you've seen on your voyage so far was all originally mapped and charted by George Vancouver. And I've mentioned did such a great job of it that many of his maps and charts are still in use today. So in 1983, NASA, the U.S. space program, bestowed the honor on Cook and Vancouver by naming a space shuttle after his ship HMS Discovery. And that was a very fitted name for that shuttle, as it, of course, went on to become the most prolific, most traveled, and most successful of all of the space shuttles. But in 1994, NASA went ahead and bestowed the same honor on Cook's ship, the HMS Endeavour, the first ship that Cook circumnavigated the globe with. And that was the last shuttle commissioned by NASA. And George Vancouver managed to get all that done prior to the age of 40. That's how old he was when he passed. He was just a young man. And as Paul Harvey used to say, that is the rest of the story on George Vancouver. And when we get downtown, I'll point out his 6-foot gold statue is on top of our centered dome of our provincial legislative assembly. I'm going to God love you. Now, if you look to your left, you can see that little finger of land sticking out right there. That is Clover Point. Clover Point was named by Sir James Douglas, who at the time was the prefecture for the Hudson's Bay Company. After the War of 1812, the U.S. government and the British government jointly managed the Columbia territories that stretched from the Columbia River, where Vancouver, Washington now stands, all the way to Alaska. Right? Oh, that's interesting. And about negotiations, the British government was able to negotiate the entirety of Vancouver Island for the British government. And that's why we're actually right now about 60 miles south of the 49th parallel. So knowing all this, Sir James Douglas in 1848 leaves Vancouver, Washington on the mouth of the Columbia River, where the first Hudson's Bay Company fort was located, and sailed north. He landed here at Clover Point, which we just passed. They trekked across the inner harbor, or the peninsula to the inner harbor, and set up Fort Victoria in 1848, right on our inner harbor. And I'll be taking you right and past the current location is at Bastion Square, where the original fort was located. That's and fittingly enough, we're about to turn onto Cook Street on the eastern side of Beacon Hill Park. Just take you down into the Cook Street Village. To the right of us, We'll soon stop in the Cook Street Village on the eastern side of Beacon Hill Park. With 45 charming storefronts lining 2 beautiful blocks, Cook Street Village offers a wide array of options for shopping, eating, drinking, and getting pampered. Bicyclists and urban explorers love Cook Street Village because of its pedestrian-friendly streets, small-town atmosphere, century-old horse chestnut trees shade the sidewalks, and the comfortable houses with spacious front porches capture the heritage flavor and charms of Old Victoria. This stop, Cup Street Village. Hop off here to walk around the tree-lined streets of this urban village, indulge in delicious refreshments, and soak up the small-town ambiance. Cup Street was named for Captain James Cook, the 5th European to set foot on Vancouver Island. Explore Cup Street Village and discover the magic of one of Victoria's gems. Cup Street Village, this stop. The morning the street. Oh wow. Any cankers? Bring them. Yeah. Okay, boys. Take your time. Always. This is new. If you're looking to have a pint and maybe a bite heaps, the bingo right here to our right is excellent. On our tour today, you will have seen several examples of public art. The beauty of our area has always attracted artists, where they seem to draw inspiration from the abundance of nature in day-to-day life. One such artist was Victoria's own Emily Carr, who through words and paintings communicated the culture and beauty of Vancouver Island like no one else before or since. Emily Carr ranks among the most original Canadian painters of the first half of the 20th century. She was born here in 1871. Emily studied art in the United States and Europe, but never lost her deep spiritual connection with this corner of the world. Many of her most famous paintings deal with the indigenous culture of Canada's western coast, including totem poles, masks, and traditional homes. Like many people at the time, Carr believed this ancient culture would vanish soon. She visited First Nations villages in British Columbia, intent on documenting them through her art. Her second major theme was the natural world. She captured the flavor of British Columbia through dreamlike paintings of forests and looming trees, rocky shores, and expansive coastal skies. Despite her large body of work, Emily's failure to make a living by painting discouraged her for many years. Conservative tastes in art prevented many from appreciating her modern style, with a preference for bold colors and blurred, post-impressionistic forms. Emily Carr's fortunes finally changed when she met members of the famous Canadian Group of Seven, a band of daringly original modern painters who celebrated the beauty and majesty of the Canadian landscape. At last, she found kindred spirits who understood her vision. In fact, the Group of Seven named Carr the mother of modern arts. With their encouragement, she became one of the leading Canadian artists of her time, and one of the only major female artists in North America or Europe, which opened the doors for many women of the arts to come. Emily Carr was ahead of her time in more ways than one. She had a pet monkey and used to push a baby carriage filled with pets around Thames Bay, the neighborhood where she grew up. You can see a sculptured statue of Emily and her monkey as we reach the inner harbor shortly. I'll be sure to point that out. Just ahead, you'll see a forest of totem poles. This is Thunderbird Park, part of the Royal British Columbia Museum. It features some of the world's finest authentic First Nations totem poles and big houses. The original poles were brought here in the early 1900s and represented virtually every First Nations tradition along British Columbia's coast. Within a few decades, the wooden poles had started to decay in their outdoor setting. To preserve this vital link to First Nations heritage, the museum hired the Kwakiwak master carver Mungo Martin to create replicas of the originals. Martin sparked a new wave of interest in totem carving. You can find the original totem poles in the museum's First Peoples Gallery, along with a fascinating collection of artifacts and interactive exhibits that transport you through time and space to experience the history and culture of British Columbia. So Julio, just coming up behind the back of the Empress Hotel, of course named for Queen Victoria. During her reign, she was the Empress of India. Rather fancy being called Empress. We're just going to be approaching the inner harbor. And I'll be pulling out that stopping in front of the Empress Hotel. Now, typically this is the first stop of the day. This is where you would normally board the tour. Number 8 stop, the cruise ship terminal, is typically stop number 8. So we'll be stopping here briefly. For those of you getting off, if you had a positive experience with us today, and you're going to leave a review, my name's Aaron. If you had a negative experience with us today, my name's Norm. To the right of us, of course, the Empress Hotel, built in 1908 by the CP Rail Company. I can't think of the name. CP Rail believed that the important motive for the luxury hotel on their rail line, it would be able to attract ridership. Well, now on Wolf Street, the center of early Victoria, during the gold rush of 1858 along the Fraser River, Tens of thousands of people flocked to the small town of Victoria en route to the mainland in search of wealth and a new life. Many of the travelers became permanent residents, increasing Victoria's population exponentially and transforming the small fort-treading post of Fort Victoria into a bustling waterfront city. And Grove Street was at one time the most important street in Victoria. All the shipping arrived here, whether passengers or goods. Today, most shipping goes to Vancouver, and Victoria's inner harbor is a more polished-looking place where pleasure boats, harbor ferries known as pickle boats, float planes, and larger passenger ferries bound for Washington, USA, come and go. So we're just going to be making our way through Town. Our first stop is going to be in Chinatown, and then we'll make our way over to Songhees Point. Bastion Square was named for the iconic 8-sided gun towers placed along Fort Victoria's walls. Today, the outdoor Bastion Square public market draws a good crowd by day, while restaurants, clubs, and pubs keep this place lively into the night. And of course, there are very old buildings, including the first Cornhouse building, which is said to be one of Canada's most haunted places. Did you know that Victoria has a reputation of being one of the most haunted cities in Canada? You can delve deeper into Victoria's spooky past on a Discover the Past ghostly tour. Just ask your Grey Line agent for more information. As we're making our way further into Old Town, a lot of the buildings are made out of red brick. Good lot of that red brick, especially the blue mottled, rough-looking red brick, originally came to us as ballast on ships. What would be in us, unloaded in our inner harbor, and then they would take all that load of coal or lumber, leaving the red brick behind. The building to our left here is a combination of ballast stones, which was used prior to the bricks as well. So you'll see a combination of both of those ballast bricks and ballast stone throughout the city. Yeah. The other thing the city of Victoria does a great job of is maintaining the look and feel of Old Town. And they mandate that if you're building on a historic site, you must maintain as much of the original facade as possible. So if you look directly ahead at the Janion building, you'll see that it looks like it's quite old, and the facade facing us and the east side are well over 125 years old. But that building itself literally only opened about 4 years ago. And you would see that throughout all of Old Town and downtown Victoria. And your camera's out. On the right, look closely for a straight sign that says Fan Tan Alley. This crowded byway is North America's narrowest commercial street, measuring a little over 1 meter or around 4 feet wide at either end. The alley got its name from a Chinese gambling game called Fan Tan. Fan Tan Alley and others like it once sheltered opium and gambling dens from view. Opium may have been legal at the turn of the century, but gambling was absolutely not. Even so, many alley buildings had gambling dens tucked away on the upper floors. Whenever the police appeared, the gamblers vanished through trapdoors in the floor. Sorry if you like it not. We're just going to be passing under the gates of harmonious interest. Now on either side you'll see stole lines. The one on the right is a female with a cup representing family. The one on the left is a male representing power and prestige. Together with the gate, they represent working shoulder to shoulder with the European community. Now, it's said during municipal, provincial, and federal political campaigns that the politicians are urged to go through the gates, as it is said that an honest politician would be met by the lions. Right? While they haven't moved off those pedestals ever, I don't believe. Through Chinatown, you'll see on the left coming up is the original Chinese school, originally used to teach Chinese people and children English. Now anybody can go there and learn Cantonese or Mandarin. As we turn on to Douglas Street, and look to your left, you'll see the original first Hudson's Bay building. That is the first 4-story traditional department store that almost every other department store in Canada was modeled after. And as I turn off the Douglas, you'll see our City Hall coming up. The clock panel on top, a gift from Queen Victoria herself. And originally, it was shipped to Victoria, Australia. Canada Post must have been involved. They didn't... Every city has its City Hall, and ours is the large red masonry building just ahead. It's Western Canada's oldest standing municipal hall, in continuous service since 1878. In the courtyard, you may spot the Centennial Square fountain. This was a gift from Victoria's municipalities for the city's 100th birthday in 1962, and features 3 mosaic murals that rise 28 feet high. Victoria's passion for preserving historic buildings began right here in City Hall. It was slain for revelation in the 1980s, but the threat of losing this link to the past galvanized citizens to lobby against the plan. They won the day and saved this landmark, which became the city's first heritage building to be adapted for reuse. It is now part of a Centennial Square Civic Complex, which features an eclectic mix of architectural styles, old and new. Just past City Hall, we'll see our new City Hall, and next to that is the McPherson Playhouse. The Playhouse started as a vaudeville theater and remains one of many cultural venues in our city. Theater, opera, ballet, and live music all thrive in Victoria. Our next stop. Hop off here and explore anything that caught your eye here in Old Town. To your right, you can head back to Fan Tan Alley. To your left, explore the other side of Market Square. Just behind us is City Hall. And up ahead, we take a look at our beautiful Upper Harbor and walk along Law Street. This stop, Old Town. Movies have been filmed, a TV show that I mentioned earlier here in Victoria. Smart on this. One movie of note that was filmed right here in Old Town was Bird on the Wire starring Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn. And they actually had a motorcycle chase scene that took them through Fan Tan Alley. We had to cut off the handlebars of the motorcycle in order for it to fit through Fan Tan Alley. Some other movies that have been filmed here, and this one. The first 2 X-Men movies were both filmed here in our neighboring community of Calder on the campus of Royal Caribbeans University. The first 2 Deadpool movies both filmed here in Victoria. Little Women starring Winona Ryder and Susan Sarandon was filmed almost entirely at Cribberry Castle, as well as in front of St. Anne's Academy. The Five Easy Pieces, the Academy Award-winning movie starring Jack Nicholson, was filmed here. Unique part of that movie, the Empress Hotel was completely covered in vines and ivy at that time. Now, they were pulled down about 15 years ago. Rationale given was the roots of the vines and ivy were getting into the grout work and destroying the growth between the bricks. The real reason that they pulled it down was there were several families of different species of rodents living in the vines and ivy and finding their way in and out of the Empress Hotel. We are now approaching the Johnson Street Bridge, which crosses the Upper Harbor, and this is the fourth bridge on this site. The most iconic one is known as the Blue Bridge, and set here from 1924 to 2018, before being replaced with the present-day bridge. Many of Victoria's citizens were upset with the bridge being white and not blue, so the city installed blue lights along the side, so it glows blue at night, just like the bridge before it had for 85 years. The gorge waterway we have passed over is traditionally known as Camulson, named for a girl who turned to stone at the gorge tidal rapids. The area we are in is known as Vic West and is traditionally Lekwungen territory, now known as the Songhees and the Squamish Nations. Victoria West was the site of a village of the Songhees, the first people of the Victoria area. Longhouses extended from Songhees Point to beyond the present-day Johnson Street Bridge. So as we move on to Thongees Point, you'll notice we're going to be going over a level crossing for railroad tracks. Now you might be wondering, why would we have a railroad on an island? Now originally the tracks we're going to go over went to our neighboring community of Esquimalt and out to Souk, and primarily brought lumber down into our inner harbor. We also have a railroad that goes up to Up Island. And the Nimo, and that was built by Robert Dunsmuir, who built the Cribberry Castle, and he is that to bring coal down into the inner harbor to be transloaded onto ships. So the city, whenever they're doing work on an intersection where there's a crossing, we will update the crossing and make sure that it's all up to date. And the hope is in the near future we will have a light rail transit that's going to connect downtown Victoria with our neighboring communities of Esquimalt, Colwood, Langford, Souk, and hopefully eventually Up Island. Now originally, this was supposed to be the end of the Transcontinental Railroad, built by CP now. Unfortunately, they decided to deadhead it in Vancouver. Instead of going the 300 miles Up Island crossing at the narrowest point, and then coming back down the 300 miles here to Victoria, Vancouver. That's Polish. As we head into the Songhees Point, keep your eyes peeled and look to the right between buildings for a stunning view of Fisherman's Wharf from across the harbor. Songhees Point is known as Palusas, meaning cradleboard. Because of the spiritual power of the water here, cradles were traditionally placed at the sacred headland once infants had learned to walk. The Songhees people lived here for 67 years before being displaced by settlers to their current reserve in 1911. The park is currently being renovated, adding indigenous art made of plants and a waterfront viewing platform. On your right you will find a 2.5 meter 1-ton bronze casting of spindle whorl. Theirs is one of the 7 signs of Lekwungen, located in culturally significant areas all around Victoria. Keep your eyes peeled for other markers around the inner harbor. Traditionally used by Coast Salish women to spin wool, these spindle whorls symbolize the significance of family and the sharing of indigenous knowledge. Songhees artist Butch Dick designed and carved all 7 markers. This stop, the Delta Hotel and Songhees Point Park. Hop out here to explore Songhees Point or walk the West Song Walkway to iconic waterfront pubs and restaurants. Learn about the history of the Songhees people and watch the navigation of seaplanes and many boats that frequently navigate the harbor. Walk up to the rocks that make up Songhees Point to see beautiful outdoor art and exciting natural landscapes. This stop, Songhees Point. Alrighty. Now I'll be doing a stop, like I say, everyone just like this, but don't pause long enough for you. Just give me a holler or stop on the floor and I'll be sure to make sure to pause long enough for you to get off. Now as we move underneath this bridge here, this is a rail bridge where the rail has actually been deadheaded since 2018. It used to cross the peninsula all the way over to Oak Bay, but with the installation of the new Johnson Street Bridge, it has now been deadheaded here. Right? And at this intersection, if you look directly across, you will see the oldest continuously in operation dry dock on the west coast of Canada. Okay? Now this dry dock, unlike a traditional flooding dry dock, utilizes a ramp and trolley system. The workboats are put onto trolleys, winched up the ramp, and then put on blocks to be worked on. One of the first ships of note here, the Queen Elizabeth I of the Kiwi-1, a transatlantic ocean liner, was brought here just before World War II and outfitted as a hospital ship, and it was wrapped in shroud in order to try and keep it secret. Back in those days, it was said that loose lips sank ships, but everybody here knew about it. We have our neighboring community of Esquimalt and home to Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt, and they are home to several of the largest traditional flooding dry docks. We're once again on the Johnson Street Bridge, which will turn into Johnson Street. Every gold rush town had a street like Johnson Street, always on the edge of town. This is where the dance halls, gambling halls, and saloons were. Basically, all the fun places. Johnson Street was once known for having the roughest and rowdiest saloons in Victoria. Bar fights were commonplace, and thieves often took advantage of drunk patrons, staggering from bar to bar, looking for their next pint. These thieves would hit their targets on the back of the head to knock them out, and then empty their pockets. Wow. Now our next stop, Liberty Bastion Square. It's going to be right beside this bike lane, so I would caution you if you haven't noticed already. We are paying to some of the most pretentious, entitled bike riders you'll ever see. And if you step into their bike lanes, they are likely to run right into you. So be very cautious at our bike lanes. This is our stop coming up right here. If there's any takers. Now this 7 lights to the very next 7 lights mark the original founder's hub for Victoria. And then from the lights glowing east over to Government Street. And over the original boundary for Victoria. Now this building coming up just beyond the one with the blue mural is one of those buildings that utilizes those ballast stones and ballast brick. And that building has actually been here since the time of Fort Victoria. And it is one of the oldest buildings in Victoria, the Stop Bastion Square. You're welcome. Mind the bicycles. You fear the marks and run Simonson. Keep hot. So quick though. And if you did get a chance to walk around, I would strongly recommend going for a Unakua Goodes, go down into where the money exchange, the currency exchange, and it's a very, very interesting building, and like I said, I'm going to add it to the city. We now have a full view of the inner harbor. It's still the city's main waterway nearly 175 years after the Hudson's Bay Company established Port Victoria, and the waterway's history could be traced back for thousands of years before that. And there is evidence of human life along this harbor nearly 4,000 years ago, presumably ancestors of the Algonquin peoples. You may have noticed the lone pink building we're approaching on Wharf Street. This is Victoria's original customs house, built in 1875. This three-story building is the oldest federal building of its kind still standing in Western Canada. Historically used as customs offices, examining warehouses, and hosting the Department of Inland Revenue and Marine and Fisheries, it's since been repurposed to house law firms. And to the regulation of the harbor air, one of the first full-plane airports in Canada, and it is the 80th full-plane airport in Canada, and actually the very first one to utilize an electric full plane, believe it or not. To the right of us, you can see that Congo is just coming to port. That is a vehicle ferry that goes 4 times daily to downtown Port Angeles, Washington. Hope is built to cross that 23 miles to Port Angeles across the Straits of Juan de Fuca. Now the Congo is a unique ship insofar as it went into service in December 1959, and it has an absolutely impeccable record. It has never missed a scheduled crossing. Quite remarkable. Now, many folks from Victoria and southern Vancouver Island love to take the coho down to the Olympic Mountains. I've never seen it, and go to have a romantic getaways. My wife likes to go a couple of times a month, hoping maybe she'll take me along one day. Look at your map for a front-facing view of the magnificent Empress Hotel. Designed in 1908 by architect Francis Rattenbury, the Empress is known for accommodating high-profile guests, including John Travolta, Winston Churchill, and Queen Elizabeth. It may be hard to believe, but this road used to be a bridge. This was a muddy area where clams would thrive in trickling freshwater streams. The water was blocked off, and the land filled with dirt to create a foundation for the Empress, Canada's castle on the coast. Another Rattenbury design, we're now passing the legislature buildings, which were established here in 1898. This stately complex reminds us that we are in the capital of British Columbia. Daily tours give you an opportunity to learn about Canada's legislature system and experience the incredible mosaics, marble, and woodwork inside. On your right is the steamship terminal. Built in 1926, it stands out from Francis Rattenbury's other designs, as it is a neoclassical temple-like building. It saw steamships enter Victoria's inner harbor for 34 years, welcoming more than 150,000 visitors to Victoria. We're at Maldives State, Vatican, and Fatima. Next, we'll stop at the steamship terminal and the Cobo and Clipper ferries. Ferries run from here to the United States with connections to Port Angeles and Seattle. The terminal also marks the beginning of the David Foster Walkway, a lovely waterfront trail that takes you to Fisherman's Wharf, one of Victoria's most popular attractions. The stop, Steamship Terminal. High-speed turbine-powered passenger ferry, and let's go 20th ferry to downtown Seattle. You get a good view to the right of the amazing cold there. Like I said, just an impeccable record. Never missed a scheduled crossing. Looks like we're just coming up to the Pendray Key House at hotel. Been a hotel since 1980. And literally walking into it, you step back in time. Both hotels spend millions of dollars to upgrade the Pendray. It remained exactly at this large at the turn of the last century. Pendray, William Pendray, the owner of the mansion, originally had a paint factory and a slate factory on the point just to our right on Moore Point. And it is said that there was a curse on that piece of property as the Songhees and the Esquimalt people were moved off of it and up island onto reserve. Now, he built his paint factory right here on Moore Point, as well as his soot factory. And some believe the curse did come true. He was killed in his own paint factory when a pipe fell on his head. And then, believe it or not, 3 weeks later, his eldest son, who took over the company, was killed in a runaway horse and buggy accident. Now, the soap company that had to be sold off after their deaths turned out to become the Lieber Flip Company. So we are just about to come up to our first stop for Fisherman's Wharf, our version of Fisherman's Wharf. This stop, Coast Hotel. Now we have another stop, just correctly south the Fisherman's Wharf, across the green space 70, and this is one of 2 stops from Fisherman's Wharf. And then come up to this stop sign. If you look to the right, you'll see that liveaboard community. You can see it when we're over across Union Harbor at Poisson's Point. And if you look to your right as we come up to a stop sign, you'll see the colorful liveaboard. This is one of 2 communities on our inner harbor. Now this is an active Fisherman's Wharf. There's bars, restaurants down here. We can buy fresh fish right off the boat. This little herb garden coming up on the right on the corner here is minded by the city of Victoria and the community at James Bay. This stop, Fisherman's Wharf. If you look to your right directly across the green space, you will see Fisherman's Wharf. apartment building to the left is actually where my wife and I rent, and just to get an idea what a one-bedroom apartment costs here in Victoria, in this building to my left is $2,600 a month. I mean, this building in front of us, she had opened in the year 2000. And it is a luxury condominium. And on top of either side of it, there are land-matching penthouses on top of either side of the building. Originally owned by music producer David Foster. He, of course, discovered Celine Dion, which he used to make a life. And at that time, they were known as his and hers penthouses. And then after they were divorced, they were known as hers and hers. Seamlessly, it's primarily a cruise ship port. We welcome about 320 ships annually, about 1 billion cruise ship visitors. That week from May 1st to May 4th will welcoming over 10 boats and around 29,000 visitors. Brilliant folks a year usually, so you folks are literally 1 in a million. This stop, the Breakwater District, at Ogden Plum. If you wanted to go back to the ship, this is your stop.
After leaving the tour on the hop on hop off, we're walking this pedal line path back to the cruise ship. On the right, the Serenade of the Seas. So we've got through a little customs, not really, just they were checking ID and the ship pass. So now we're walking back to the Serenade of the Seas. It is windy, and it's about, they said the high today was going to be 58, and it feels like it. See, honey? It is freezing.